Hello everybody, I am the curator of the show The Place of the Mind, Roger Ballen retrospective, and I am waiting to have an interview with Roger Ballen, and I'm very curious to meet him in a few seconds, I hope so. Okay. We have the great pleasure to showcase 125 photographs by Roger Ballen. It is a retrospective show. We present works from all of his famous series and creative periods. Yes, and it would be very interesting for me to ask a few questions to Roger, to discuss with him on his work, on his creative process, and so on. So Roger, where are you? We are waiting.
Yeah, here we go.
Can you see me now?
Hi, Roger. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I have this on my phone, so I'm trying to get it on my computer, but I don't. Doesn't seem to be working.
It's not working on the computer. You have to stay on the phone.
No, it came through on my phone. I don't know how to get it to work on my computer now.
Is it comfortable for you here on the phone? Is it okay? Yeah?
It is, but it's just not it. I just have to hold the phone. Maybe I find a better place.
Okay, we're waiting for you.
Okay.
Okay. So you show us around your office now.
Yeah, I'm in my office. Maybe get me hold the phone so it's be easier. Let's see. Maybe it can go like this.
Oh, great.
Right.
So Roger, I remember it was in June that we discussed the concept of this exhibition the first time, and now we have opened this great show, and we are very happy to have the great photographs of you here in Linz now. We have the pleasure to showcase works from all of your important series and creative periods, from your early work in the late 1960s up to your color images and your very recent project, Roger the Red. The show is called The Place of the Mind. I remember you once explained, quotation, "The room becomes a place of the mind." If you're actually able to find a relationship between what's inside and what's outside. Roger, could this be a leading topic of your entire work, to find and express a relationship between the inner world and the outer world?
Yeah, I think this is a correct assessment. I think, first of all, from the early days, my work has always been psychological. So if you think of the word psychological, it's an ability to try to understand how your mind works, to express your mind, to express this enigmatic concept. I mean, it's very easy to use the word mind. It's very easy. It's just a word. But when you actually contemplate the word, you actually don't know what to say anymore. You get lost. You don't know where it is. You don't know how it works. You don't know anything about it. It just seems to operate, but it doesn't operate according to the rules that you think it's operating. Your mind controls your mind, and it's hard to know what part. It's hard to know exactly the difference between what you think the mind is and what the mind actually is. So yeah, it's one of the most enigmatic concepts. So the purpose of the work over the years is, in my own way, I'm not saying I have the answers to it, but the purpose is to try to materialize this concept in some abstract way, in some photographic way.
I would like to go a little bit backward now. So one of your very best known photographs is the image of the twins Tracy and Casey from the series Platteland. It's quite shocking in a way, still today. Once you have seen the picture, you can hardly get it out of your mind again. What was the reaction to it when it was published in South Africa in 1994 during the end of the apartheid system? You once explained that you didn't want to express a political statement then. So what was your idea and your goal as an artist during the conception of the series Platteland? Could you talk about it?
Well, you're right about this. Tracy and Casey is for whatever reason, is my most famous picture. I think millions and millions of people remember this picture. So I think we can look at this on a philosophical level, and we can look at it on a more social level. And when we think about it philosophically, psychologically, we would like to try to ponder what is it about this image? What is it about this image that allows it to stay in people's minds? Why does this image have so much impact on the mind? Again, we go back to the mind. So we can contemplate this issue for a long time and never come up with the real answers. But if you look at the people, and you look at the way they look, you look at their neck and other things about them, they have something to do about something. There's something about the human archetype, the previous archetype of humanity. I mean, in a way, we're part of an evolution, and humanity evolved. So in a way, I think, but I'm not sure, the mind, the brain cells see something, a mirror about yourself, about the species. You're seeing something about yourself there somehow or another. There's a recognition going on which we can't get to. So that's a more philosophical approach. It's something to ponder. There's no answer to it. Why does this image stick in your mind? It is strange. It's different. It's a great photograph, a great portraiture, but it sticks. Wherever I go, it sticks. And people don't know anything about apartheid anymore. They don't know about, very few people know about South Africa, but this image stays there. It goes to the brain cell that deals with the archetypes. So when I first published Platteland, this was in '95, photography was just a hobby for me. I mean, I traveled around the countryside as a geologist, taking these pictures, and I've always said, what was the greatest influence at the time for me doing this book? And it wasn't Diane Arbus, it wasn't other photographers who were photographing odd people. For me, it was like Beckett. It was Beckett. It was people living on the margins, people living in existence that with themselves, that had no necessarily a purpose other than to live. It was a place of absurdity in many ways, and it was also a place of marginalization. It was a period where many people living in the countryside felt alienated, marginalized, scared of the future, and they were living on the edge, like people in Beckett's books and plays. So when this book came out, it was a real shock to a lot of people in South Africa and outside of South Africa, because the media had always pointed out that the white South Africans were very rich and very powerful and very organized, and all of a sudden this book came out and it broke down the myth. It broke down the myth. This book didn't show that. It showed a bunch of people living on the edge, not confident about their future and not being able to cope. And so when the book came out, I was very unpopular here. And I've always said my most famous quote, after this book came out, I had one friend left in the country, and that was my dog called Leroy.
So you are very much focusing on the dark side of the human mind and the conditio humana in general. But there's also lots of irony and a profound sense of humor in your work, especially in your very recent project, Roger the Rat. Roger, what was it like to slip into the role of a rat? Playing with the identity of an outsider, embodying both the species of a rat and the species of mankind? What was your experience?
Well, you know, the thing is during the time I did the Roger the Rat book, I also worked on a separate rat series. So you're looking at one of the world's experts on rat behavior, by far. At least 6-7 years of almost only concentrating on rats. So if you have a question about rats, maybe I should give up my photo career and start a career in rats, especially during this pandemic. It might be a very lucrative career. Anyway, so firstly, the rat is, in my opinion, this most intelligent species on the planet per brain size. Don't ever demote a rat. A rat is super intelligent. Rats live everywhere. Rats live in the basement of people's houses. Rats live in the bush. Rats live in cellars and attics. They live off of garbage. They can kill other animals. And they can have 10, 11 babies a few times a year. Rats have it worked out. So never try not to think about rats in a negative way. But for many people, it's quite interesting. In the Western world, rats represent disease. They represent dirt. They represent evil. I don't know how this has happened, but it has happened. I guess we could go back to the plagues or something like this. It's hard to say. In Africa, it's not the case, though. But they represent, from a factual point of view, something evil, something strange, something to stay away from. On the other hand, for me, when I did the Roger the Rat book, the rat represents a part of the mind that a lot of humanity doesn't want to deal with. You mentioned the concept of Roger Ballen's photographs, the dark side. Well, see, when people use the word dark, it's not necessarily bad. It's not evil. It's like what Jung said, it's the shadow side. And if you use the word dark in English and refer to it as the night, would you say that the night is bad or evil? It isn't, just part of life. So the shadow side, nothing different than the light side. It's all part of the same thing. It's actually all part of the mind. And what we refer to as the dark side and the light side may exist in the same brain cell in the brain, in the mind. It's the same brain cell. So as light, as dark and light, we have to be very careful that actually we're not saying to ourselves, this is what we're scared of. This is what we can't deal with. This is what we repressed. So my pictures, I think one of the things my pictures do to people, they bring out that repression. They open up something in their minds that they're not sure of, that they're a little bit anxious about, and then they call it dark. But dark can be light. I mean, that's what I've always said. If that's what's happening to you, this is a positive thing. It's nothing to be scared of. It's an opening. It's a productive activity. So if you ask me what the purpose of my pictures are, if I said, what do I hope my pictures do? My hope is that they open up the mind of people, they open up the dark side, the shadow side. And going back to my opinions again about the future of humanity, I would say, until this happens on a wide scale, humanity will keep just repeating its mistakes. You have to go back to the individual again. The individual has to develop some awareness of self or of mind. Whether it's happened or not happened, don't ask me.
So let's go back to the animals. We can find animals throughout your entire work, beginning with the picture of a dead cat taken in New York City, followed by pigs, puppies, birds, snakes, and rats, and so on. So the relationship between man and animals seems to be a central subject of your work. Can you talk about this main subject a little bit? Because it's a red line throughout your entire work.
No, you're absolutely 100% right. And even to this day, you know, most of my pictures have animals in them, one way or another. And, you know, I've thought about it so many times, and there's always the two sides to the pictures. The one side is, what do they represent? What do these animals represent? They may be representing something about the shadow side. They may be representing something referred to the dark side, the primitive side, the primal side. They may say something about the relationship between humanity and nature. So the meaning of the pictures is multidimensional and not necessarily one thing or the other. The other thing is you know, wherever we go, we're taking our animal with us. Wherever we go, the mind is taking its own primeval self wherever it goes. And when things happen in this world, one way or another, that animal side comes out. Maybe especially when we go near a restaurant, then it comes out. When we're tired, it comes out. When we see a pretty young lady or a handsome man, it comes out. So it's the animal side dominates. And so dominates human behavior. There's absolutely no doubt about that. We think we're civilized, but in the end of the day, the animal predominates, and it's one reason we can't get rid of some of the human problems that exist on the planet. How you change that, I mentioned my point. One has to come to terms with it. But the other thing is the animals, I like the concept of the animal in the picture. So we talk about the photographs. The one thing nice about the animal versus people can't say, oh, the animal looks poor, or the animal, why are you taking pictures of a black person versus a white person, or a white person versus a yellow person? We don't get into that. You can't get into the animal's head, so you can't make value judgments about the animal. The animal's always an enigma in the picture. You can't get underneath the animal, and so the animal creates a sense of mystery and enigma within this so-called Ballen-esque space, and ultimately the picture is able to stay in another zone without people trying to make all sorts of value judgments about the state of affairs of a particular individual. So I guess that's one reason I like photographing animals, because you don't get into the issues like I got into with Plotterland. Why are you photographing this, and did you ask permission? Well, the rats and the birds, they all like me, so they gave me permission forever. So I signed a contract with them many years ago that I could photograph rats and birds for the rest of my life and not have to pay royalties.
Roger, another theme. I think it was in 2017, I'm not sure, when you first owned a digital camera. You began to take digital pictures in color then. So we are pleased to showcase a selection of your great color images here in Linz as well. What does color mean to your work? Will you go on with color photography?
No, thank you for the good point. It was just a funny happening, you know. I was finishing the Ballen-esque book, and then I asked Leica Camera if I could borrow one of the digital cameras, because I have had a good relationship with Leica over the years. Even though my black and white pictures were always taken with a Rolleiflex, I got to know some people in Leica, and they were very keen to help me. So they gave me this Leica SL camera, and I started to make the video to the Ballen book. And when I was doing this, I started to take pictures just by chance with this camera. They were set on color. But the one advantage of color, of digital camera, they have more than one advantage, is you can change the color picture to black and white. And surprisingly enough for me, that the color ones, in many cases, were more effective than the black and white ones. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. In fact, there was on the front page of my website, I said, I'm the last generation to take black and white photographs. I don't think I'll ever do color for these reasons. And so I was like a hypocrite there. So then I started taking more of these color pictures. And it took me into another zone. It challenged me. And I think this is always very important for me or most artists, I guess. I don't want to speak about other people. But you have to be a challenge. You have to feel passionate about what you're doing. If you don't feel challenged, then it becomes repetitive. And the last thing you want to do is not be challenged and start making work that doesn't lead you anywhere. So the color put me into another place, another zone. And when you look at the color of pictures, you can say, well, it looks like Roger Ballen took them, but they do have a separate identity. And for me, the greatest surprise was how easy I moved from black and white to color, and the fact that the colors has added to my whole sort of repertoire of photography that I've done over the years. So I am, the last 3 years, almost only taking color pictures, and I guess in a few years I'll come up with a big color photo book.
Oh, great. I'm very much looking forward to this book. Roger, as a photographer, you are including different media to your work, such as drawing, painting, and installation, for example. Parallel to your photographic work, you created a number of films and videos with a quality of its own. Roger, what's the more appealing and demanding challenge to you, making a photograph or making a film?
No, they're all challenging, and each one has a positive side or a side that takes you to a certain place the other one can't take you to. And when you look at, say, filmmaking and video, well, the most obvious thing about filmmaking video is that you have sound over photography, and it's about the time over a period of time, whereas photography is about 1/500th of a second. It's putting reality, so-called photographic reality, together in microseconds, where a film like the last one I did, Roger the Rat film, is nearly 30 minutes. So this is it is important. It is important and very in my career that I started making films. My first film was done in 1972. But what really changed my mind about the whole process is when I did I Think You're Freaky with the film, with the rock band Die Antwoord. And this thing really just just went totally viral. I think it has like 160 million hits now. And it gave me the feeling that, that film could take my photography to another place. It could offer it to bring in another audience and expand the aesthetic that I was involved in. So after that, for every major project that I've been involved in since 2012, I've made films, and I'm really happy that I did that, because a film can expand the aesthetic. It doesn't always do that. I mean, you have to make a film on the same level as your photographs. They have to be of a certain merit, but if you do it well, it just extends the aesthetic zone. And so we'll continue with films. I am also doing paintings, and unfortunately, because of the coronavirus, I was very interested in coming to Austria, to Linz, to make an installation. A lot of my museum shows have installations, because if you look at my pictures in a way, they're the theater sets or installation sets transformed through photography. But in a lot of the shows, if I have the opportunity, I try to make installations as well, which are three-dimensional pieces, so people can experience a three-dimensional object as well as a two-dimensional object, which is a photograph, as well as films, which occur over a period of time within the limits of of the film.
Roger, as an artist, you occupy a very special, very singular position in contemporary photography, fluctuating between documentation and fiction. The artistic world has coined the term Ballenesque to describe your very unique style. This term stands for a concept of insecurity between fact and fiction, between reality and dream. Roger, what does the term Ballenesque mean to you personally?
Well, you know, the term Ballenesque keeps evolving, because the term Ballenesque comes from the place of the mind. So it's not, so Ballenesque is a way of defining the enigma of who Roger Ballen is. It's a way forward, a way of putting some sort of framework for life itself, of Roger Ballen's life in its own way, and for me to contemplate what life is all about. I mean, this is what a lot of contemporary art, in my mind, and photography is missing. You know, they're missing the central questions. They're missing the central questions about existence itself. I mean, every day when you look at the mirror, you probably say to yourself, "Is that really me?" Well, you can't. It may not be. It may not be. There may be most things that you think are clear aren't very clear. I mean, nothing's clear at the end. We started to talk about the mind, and we can't even point to it. We can't even point to the mind. We don't even know where it is, actually. We don't know anything about anything. So these are the central questions that haunt us. I would say haunt most of us. Most people won't admit to this. They want to run away from it. But ultimately, you can't run away from your own shadow in a way. You can't run away from the so-called dark side. And so Ballenesque has been an attempt to try to deal with this question: who is Roger Ballen? That's what it's about. And what is the meaning of life? And so one of the things that runs through the pictures is absurdity. I think if one tries to put the pictures into some sort of theoretical framework that one can talk about, historical framework, we would say that the pictures have an aspect of the theater of the absurd. You know, nothing makes ultimately that we live in a world where chaos dominates, where meaning is hard to find and ultimately questionable, and we have no way of answering the most difficult questions, and we think we're in charge. But we're not in charge. I think we can see this very clearly by the fact that this is the most primitive form of life on the planet has defeated us in some way or another. And there we go again. We think we're in charge. We think we have control. And this virus that's been around for 1 billion years or so is taking control. So what's that about? And anything can happen anytime. We know that too. We don't like to think these things. But this is, I think the Ballenesque and the pictures in the exhibition subconsciously bring out these things. I can't say for certain. I can't, and I think they're multiple in meaning, as I said. But that's what I think these pictures do to people, in my own opinion. They make people a bit insecure and a bit anxious. They bring the mirror a little too close. But at the same time, they're not necessarily also, as you said earlier, there's absurdity is a form of humor. So there is humor here too. So we don't want to scare the public and say, you're going to go to this exhibition and feel depressed. I think more importantly, you'll find most of these pictures quite comic and quite funny. And you might laugh at more of them than you might cry.
Roger, it was a very great pleasure to talk to you. It was a very great pleasure to work on this exhibition together with you and to realize this wonderful exhibition. And I very much hope that you will have the opportunity to come to Linz and to see the show. And yes, I wish you all the best and thanks a lot for your time.
Well, thank you. I really want to thank you, Alfred, and the staff there. This morning, I saw the pictures from the exhibition. I can't tell you how pleased I was. You did such a fabulous job with the way you curated the show. It is absolutely beautiful, and it's unique in so many ways. I've had hundreds of exhibitions, really hundreds of them, and you did really such a terrific job. And it is so disappointing that I couldn't be there, but hopefully I'll be there in the next months or two, and hopefully we'll be in a better situation with this virus. But really, I really want to congratulate you, because I mean, you made the exhibition as much as I did. So thank you, and thank you to everybody in the museum. And I guess we can end the conversation in some ways. Just stay well, stay healthy, and hope to see you soon. And thank you very much. I really appreciate your help and efforts.
Thank you, Roger. Bye.
Thank you again. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you.